Hello, it's Bill, the knee pain guru, and welcome to the Ask Dr. Beck show. Should we consider this a special edition because it's the weekend?
Because it's the weekend, absolutely.
Okay, to the special edition of the Ask Dr. Beck show. This week, we're going to talk about thyroids. This week, a question was sent in from Cathy. Cathy writes, I've been in a beach town in Connecticut. When I have osteopathic manipulations, my thyroid area hurts a couple days later. Can thyroid issues, hypothyroidism, be caused by first rib and neck issues? Can osteopathic treatment help?
Wow. There were about 20 questions asked in that one. So,
it's like, I have one question.
Correct. One question.
And there are 15 subparts.
Exactly.
1A, 1B, 1C.
Yep. So let me try to break it down because I heard lots of things in this.
Okay.
All right. So first, let's start with what the thyroid does. So thyroid creates thyroid hormone, which is, we all hear it as T3 and T4. Okay. So what we have is the T is a tyrosine molecule. So that's an amino acid. And then the 3 and the 4 are iodine molecules that bind the tyrosine. So T4 is quattro-iodo-tyrosine. So 4 iodines bound to a tyrosine. T3 is tri-iodo-tyrosine. T4 is typically the storage form. It's about 20% active. T3 is our active form. It's about 80% active. And the way that I explain it to my patients is, this is like preparing for the winter. And in order to run the stove, you have to have a wood pile. So that's your T4. It's the storage form. And then you have to have a stove, and the stove has to keep running, and that's the T3. So we keep that simple. All right. So in order to then create the thyroid hormone, we have to have tyrosine. We have to have iodine. Now, what I heard is beach town on the coast. Guess what? Seawater has iodine. So just by being in a beach town, there's iodine in the air, and there's iodine in the soil that comes from the rain that picks up the iodine in coming over the ocean. And so living close to the shores of any country, you're going to have more iodine in the soil. Now, here in Indiana, we are part of what they call the goiter belt. So when you have less iodine or no iodine, the gland swells. It literally tries to put more surface area out to collect the iodine that comes into your body. Okay, and it's called a goiter. So it's a swelling in the neck.
More surface area. Got it. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. The way that we combat the goiter medically, not necessarily the best way because it's got pluses and minuses to it, but is we give people iodized salt. So you go to the grocery store, you buy the Morton's in the little blue labeled container that pours out cleanly. It's got iodine in it. We found that reduced people's goiters. Okay. Again, there's pluses and minuses to that, but you need iodine, you need tyrosine, you need some cofactors in the body. Zinc and selenium are big. Okay. So those are the things that are required for a healthy thyroid to work. Things that can get in the way of and create an unhealthy thyroid. Coffee. It's not caffeine. It's the actual coffee bean itself. And, you know, people that come to my office and say, oh, I have 1 or 2 pots a day, you're pretty much guaranteed to have a thyroid issue. If you have a cup, you can pretty much overcome that. I usually don't get on people about a cup. Birth control pills also cause. Yes, go ahead.
Question about the coffee piece. Is it the coffee itself that causes the issue, or can you balance it out with an iodine supplement that would negate the coffee piece. Am I explaining that?
Yes. Let me come back to that in just a moment. Let me go through 2 more things, and then I'll explain why it happens.
Birth control.
So birth control pills also can cause hypothyroidism, and loop diuretics. So this is Lasix. That's the brand name, and furosemide is the generic name. So what happens is all 3 of those things, coffee, the birth control pills, and the loop diuretics, they all stop the conversion of T4 to T3, or they significantly slow it down. And so that's where the issue comes in. That's the answer to your question. So can you take more iodine? Technically, that answer is no, because we're blocking the enzyme that cleaves one of the iodines off of the T4 molecule to create T3.
Got it.
What you can do is you can take T3, which is something that's available either through a prescription or from a compounding pharmacist. I always prefer the compounding pharmacist because we can get the right amount of T3 for your body much easier than we can if we're trying to put it together through big pharma pills.
Got it. Okay.
All right. So that's the setup for what has to happen in the thyroid. Okay. Now, there was an osteopath who she was a pediatrician, and she practiced in the Philadelphia area for a number of years and passed away before the turn of the last century. I want to say in the 80s or early 90s. Her name was Burl Arbuckle. And Arbuckle was kind of a bigwig in the osteopathic profession. She studied a lot of pediatric skulls. You must have just lost me. I'll wait till I come back here. Okay. Am I back?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're here.
Okay. So she studied a lot of pediatric skulls. And she spent time with Frank Chapman. And Dr. Chapman, I'll wait till you come back now.
I'm not seeing any gap in any of this.
Okay, you're not seeing anything. Okay, then I'll just keep talking. So she studied with Frank Chapman. Dr. Chapman was an osteopath who, during the 20s and 30s of the 1900s, figured out that there are points on the skin that correlate to organs in the body. And if you worked the points on the skin, the organs inside the body would change. They became known as Chapman's reflexes. There's a whole course of study around them. Arbuckle studied with Chapman. In her book, she put in some little blurb that just stuck in my head that made perfect sense. So the thyroid is part of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, shortened to HPA. And basically, they're the organs in the body that have the ability to put out hormones that are both the gas and the brake pedal. So they're the sex hormones or the gonads, depending on what sex you are. I'm not sure how the new non-binary thing fits in, but if you're male or female, then you have organs and they put out hormones and they can be gas or brake. The adrenals, the thymus behind the sternum, the thyroid, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the pineal gland. So they're all gas and brake, okay? All the other organs that put out hormones are gas or brake. They're one or the other. So what Arbuckle said in her book is that if you have an unbalanced pelvis, if you have one hip that's higher or lower than the other, by definition, you have an Hpa axis imbalance. Okay. That's the critical piece. That's the answer to the question here. So now you come see your osteopath, very likely because you're out of balance. And these things are interrelated. So you can have a hormone imbalance that shows up structurally that the hips are not level. Or your hips cannot be level because you stepped in a pothole walking across the street, for example, and that throws your hormones off.
Right.
Okay. So what you then do is you come see the osteopath who does what they're taught to do, and helps to bring that pelvis back into balance.
Mm-hmm.
As they do that, they help to balance the hormones.
Mm-hmm.
As you balance the hormones, you begin to change everything in the body.
Right.
So that's, I'm going to say answer number one. And then we're going to go with sub-answer number one.
Right.
The fascia connects everything. We've talked about that in previous episodes.
Yep.
Fascia would then also go to and surround the thyroid. And so if I work with the head, if I work with the first rib, if I work with the pelvis, if I work with the feet, all that fascia is connected. And so as I shift one thing, you can achieve that balance in the moment of treatment. Okay. It happens. It doesn't happen all the time, though. Other times, what you can do is you can set something up so that 2 or 3 days later, a shift happens. And then what we perceive, first of all, I remind my patients, it is not a freak out moment. If your arms and legs fall off, that's a freak out moment.
Right.
But if 2 days after the treatment, your knee starts hurting, well, it's not because there's necessarily something wrong with your knee. It's because something shifted and the knee is having to adapt to that shift. So if that lasts an hour or two, I don't sweat it. If it lasts more than a day, I want you to call me because I want to know what's going on. We may need to get you back in for a very short additional treatment to help to continue to integrate. So now I'm going to come back around to the question. We have a person who is on the shore taking an iodine because they're breathing, which is wonderful, and gets a treatment where and this is my guess, their HPA axis is off to begin with. So the thyroid is functioning less optimally. And then we give them a treatment that helps to balance the thyroid gland. And because of that, there's a fascial change in the body that they perceive as, ooh, there's an ache or a pain or a discomfort in the area of my thyroid. Okay. That's the answer to the question.
That's it? That's all you got?
I can add more if you want.
No, that was good. And I think it really, what I appreciate about what you bring to the table is it's not just the thing. It's all of the other stuff that's connected to the thing. And if we just look at the thing, then we're not only not addressing the thing, we're not addressing anything else either.
Correct.
So, yeah, that's awesome what you're bringing to the table here. Let's see. We got some people watching. If you have questions for Dr. Beck, you can type those in now. We will answer those questions. We do have some time this morning. Before we dig into any questions, we'll go ahead and do our little promo thing here. Let's see. Here we go. We're going to do the promo and then we'll be right back. Our mission at the Comella Foundation is to relieve pain naturally using osteopathic healing principles. The Comella Foundation is recognized as a nonprofit 501c3 under the Internal Revenue Code. Your contributions are greatly appreciated. Please consider taking a moment and donating to the Comella Foundation to help us continue our important pain-relieving work. Every little bit helps. And we're back. And we had a comment from Christina. This is really interesting.
Cool.
Thank you. Okay. That was a question for today. Did you have anything else you?
Oh, I do.
Okay.
Well, like many stories, but I'm reading a book written by Gerald Smith, and Dr. Smith is a dentist who I think he said he graduated from dental school in 1969. So he's been in practice for like 53 years or something like that. And what's interesting is, and I'm always drawn to this, he looks at things and does things differently. And so he gets results, obviously, because he's doing things differently that other people don't.
Where's he out of? Marietta, Georgia?
No, from Pennsylvania somewhere. Hang on, let me just see here.
Hold on a second. I got a website.
Langhorne, PA.
Wait a minute. Share. Whoop.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
That gentleman. So I'm reading his book called Splinters, and it's fascinating. And so again, he's a dentist, right? And so I have come up with a class called the Dental Body Connection. He has come up with a class probably before me. We don't know each other, which is also the dental connection with the body. And I'm reading through his book, and he talks about the embryology of the teeth. So embryology is about where things come from when we're growing inside of mom. And the front teeth, so this is the incisors, those are the two teeth in the middle, the teeth next to those, the canine teeth, they all are attached and come from the sympathetic nervous system. Okay, sympathetic's fight or flight.
Yeah, I'm go ahead.
Got it. This is my brain too. I'm going, wait a minute, what? Okay, so front teeth are sympathetic nervous system.
Yeah.
The premolars and molars are parasympathetic nervous system.
Okay.
So my brain is like, there's steam coming out of my ears. Like, wait a minute here. Sure. That was important.
Yeah, I'm trying to like connect some dots here because that seems huge.
Very huge. So first, let's go back and look at what sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system do.
Right.
Sympathetic is fight or flight.
Yep.
Sympathetic is anxiety. It's a panic attack.
Okay.
It's increased heart rate. It's increased blood pressure. It's not feeling at ease in your body. Okay. Parasympathetic is the opposite. Decreased heart rate, decreased blood pressure. Okay, so now what we have to recognize is that teeth are sensitive. Teeth want to be in balance. That's the key.
Okay.
That's Coco behind me.
Coco.
So teeth want to be in balance. And if you get something that causes the teeth to touch prematurely, okay, so for the moment, think popcorn seed. If I'm biting on popcorn and I'm able to bring my teeth together and my body gets no bad feedback from that, I'm chewing normally. The moment I hit popcorn seed, all of a sudden the body says, something's definitely wrong here. I need to shift to not fracture a tooth because that's bad, right? It's hard for us to keep living if we fracture a tooth. Thank goodness we have dentists who can help us out. Now, put that with the front teeth. So if my front teeth come together prematurely, I stimulate the sympathetic nervous system. If my front teeth don't meet appropriately, I can't balance the sympathetic nervous system. And if we go inside the mouth where the front teeth end and they join the surface of the roof of the mouth, so the gum line, we go up another quarter of an inch or so. There's a hole in the bone where a nerve comes through. And
I'm resisting the urge to feel where this is right now.
Yeah, well, go ahead. Use your tongue, use your finger, right? So what happens is that nerve is supposed to be stimulated by our tongue. When our tongue rests in what they call home position, the tip of the tongue balances that. Okay? Now, place yourself as a child who doesn't know how the mouth works. Like they can't. They don't have the educational experience, right? I'm 53 years old and I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't know yet. But what the child does is they'll take their thumb or their finger and they'll place it right on that nerve, and they will soothe themselves.
Oh,
Suck their thumb.
oh my God.
Bringing your nervous system back into balance, right?
Because the sympathetic, parasympathetic, the nerve.
Right. So I'm balancing the nerve to get a little input so that everything is nice and smooth inside the body.
Uh-huh.
Now, here's the thing. That in itself, we'll call that neutral, right? It is what it is.
Right.
But for every action, there is a reaction. So if I'm 1 year old and I'm sucking my thumb, this is basically the same thing that the breast is supposed to do when you are breastfeeding and doing it correctly.
Oh my gosh.
So mom's breast goes inside baby's mouth and it fits where it's supposed to. Okay. And so then when that happens, the development of the mouth is optimal. The palate is wide. That nerve gets stimulated by the breast and by the baby's tongue. Well, if you keep sucking your thumb because things aren't normal, what happens is the top teeth, which normally sit down like this, they wind up doing this. It's called an anterior open bite. Okay, so the front is open. Then what happens is the teeth act like a gate for the tongue. They keep it in place. And basically what you did was you opened the gate. So now the tongue sticks out like this because there's no teeth keeping it in. Okay, and it's really hard for a dentist to bring you back to normal, to get those front teeth to come down. So thumb sucking has its place when you're young, but thumb sucking also indicates that there's an issue that's not being addressed in the child. So that is, get the bones of the head moving correctly, get the tongue to be in the right place, get breastfeeding to happen the way it's supposed to. You know, in a perfect world, everyone would be breastfeeding. It's far better for the the development of their face. So, and then, you know, for people that are our age, when you look at high blood pressure, when you look at anxiety and panic attacks, look at the tongue. Because if we're not self-soothing with that tongue in the right position, we're setting ourselves up for failure. Wow. Freaking cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I got to let this one percolate. Like it's a game changer in a lot of ways.
Yep. That was one page of the book. And then there's almost 200 pages. So my brain is doing flip-flops.
Wow. Well, then have you got to the part about the molars, premolars and molars, and what is going on in a child that's clenching?
So now I'm going to add in something else here.
Okay.
I have dentist friend who originally from South Africa, was living in New Zealand. Now he's in Panama. Things were a little rough in New Zealand, so he left.
Recently?
Well, yeah, it's like 2 years ago. And so he has a device called a TEC scan. TEKSCAN is the name of the company. And they basically put these wires in a horseshoe-shaped piece of mylar. And it goes along with a computer. And so what you do is you bite down, and in 1/100th of a second intervals, it records what wires are touching inside the mouth and relates that to the teeth. So you can find out which, that's what it looks like. You can find out which teeth touch and then in real time, you can look at how those teeth come together, and that's exactly what it looks like on the screen. And then if you look at the middle picture, you see that kind of spike coming up out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically a tooth that's occluding early. Okay. So what my dental friend told me is that if you look at the tongue, in the middle of the tongue, there's basically an oval. That oval is the sweet spot where the body wants to feel the force of dental occlusion, of closing the teeth. And if your bite is off, that force moves out of the sweet spot. And then your body says, "Ooh, I know how to fix this. I'll clench and grind until I grind down the tooth and make it better." But obviously that doesn't happen because we tend to overshoot. So we move it from the left to the right and back. And so that's why a dentist can work with that device, the tech scan, and really improve your bite by literally shaving the thickness of a human hair off of a molar that's coming into premature contact, bringing things back into the center. Okay. So that's one answer to the question about clenching or grinding. Another one is that we need input. And so what happens is our teeth are in a balance. So they always want to extrude. They literally always want to get longer. Okay. And so the phrase for someone who's old is that they're long in the tooth. So your teeth are in a balance. Clenching intrudes the teeth or makes them go back into the jaw. Having space, opening your mouth, allows the teeth to extrude or come out of the jaw. And your body is always in a balance. And in theory, that balance stays pretty stable. If, as you're developing as a child, something changes, so the bones of the head can shift, you can get trauma to a tooth, that can shift the way that your bite comes together, and then your body is doing what it can to help sort it out.
Got it. Question about the shaving, the hair of a tooth down.
Yep.
Isn't the enamel cover the tooth, and wouldn't that have some sort of impact on enamel?
If you shave too much, the answer is yes, but typically no. It's the tool. Literally, I mean, you take off the tiniest amount and you don't go through the enamel. And then your body will re-enamelize that.
We got a question that came in from Cathy. I heard if you're anxious and having palpitations, you put your tongue in the roof of your mouth and it will help bring your heart rate back to normal and ease anxiety.
Yes, indeed. Sometimes you need to take the tip of the tongue and, work it, circles, figure eights, whatever, against that nerve. Sometimes just pressure isn't enough. And so it's almost like your tongue gets curious. And one of the things that we have that can help us, this little thing called a myospot. And oh goodness, how to describe it? It's like, so first of all, it's a little bit sticky, and that if you push it onto the roof of your mouth, it'll stay where you push it. Non-toxic, non-harmful, and a little bit like chewing gum in that it's kind of that consistency. So you find where that nerve is, you put this little myospot on the nerve, and then your tongue goes, ooh, something new. I haven't felt this before. I just want to play with it. And the tongue literally will, do its little dance around that myospot for the 2 or 3 hours that it takes for it to go away. And you can train your tongue to sit in a different place.
MYOSPOT.
Yep. I want to say they come out of Australia.
Myospot. hold on a second. Let me share the screen here. Are we on? Are you able to see myospots?
Yep.
Okay. New patent and technology for tongue exercise. And we have a myospots.
Yep. Flavored. Great for kids.
And this helps with. Oh, look at that. Okay.
It basically creates something that the tongue becomes inquisitive about.
Mm-hmm.
And then the tongue will move to that spot, creating pressure. And that pressure over time can move teeth and bones.
And the location of the myospot is going to be specifically.
Depending on what you need to do with the myospot. Yes. So if I'm trying to move teeth, for example, the myospot might want to be just above the teeth I'm trying to move. Mm-hmm. If I'm trying to soothe the nervous system, it's going to be just over that hole where the nerve comes through.
Yeah, because I could feel as I'm pushing on that spot just above my incisors, I could feel all the tension shifting in my jaw.
Cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so the myospot basically is just a little reminder for your tongue. It gives your tongue something to do for a while. And then over the course of a month or two, you can train your tongue to be in a better place.
Huh. That's pretty wild. And you that could help with grinding? Yeah.
Oh, yes. And grinding. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool. And that just you think one a day or one working with it?
It depends on what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
It will last for, 3 to 4 hours of kind of intense, oh, my tongue's doing something there.
Got it. That's really neat.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. Okay. Well, we'll wrap it up for this week's episode. Anything else upon closing here?
I think we can call it there.
Yeah, that was a good one. Cool. Well, Dr. Beck, Charlie, my friend, thank you for taking your time, sharing your expertise and wisdom with us.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
This is Bill Paravano, the knee pain guru. Going to wrap it up today for the Ask Dr. Beck show. Leave your questions in the comments section if you have anything between now and our call next week. And you could also head on over to the Comella Foundation website where you can ask Dr. Beck your own question. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great one, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, everyone.